Okay, welcome. I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. First thing, we have assignment for request for council action. For the Finance Committee only this evening, we have 21-101 Budget Amendment, 21-102 Job Creation Grant Payment for Carlisle Brake and Friction, 21-103 Job Creation Grant Payment for Discount Drug Mart, 21-104 Job Creation Payment to Sandra Food Corporation, 2105 Agreement with York Township and Snow and Ice Services for 2021-2022 season, 21-106 Establish new fund number 157 for pretrial drug testing fund for the Muni Court, 21-107 Expenditure for Root Integrated Systems Police Department, 21-108 Fiscal Year 21 Cdbg Allocation Grant, 21-109 Authorized Contract with Brandstetter Carroll and Conceptual Design Muni Court, 21-110 Job Creation Grant Payment for Progressive Medina, 21-111 Amend Salaries and Benefits Code 3105 Tree Care Technician Parks Department, 21-112 RFPs sponsorships for the Mcrc, 21-113 motion to approve Mcrc sponsorship banner, and 21-114 agreement with West Smith Road Phase 4 right-of-way acquisition services. Next item we have is 21-092 amend salaries and benefits code to add 3 officers for the police department. This came through health, safety, and sanitation. So, Mr. Simpson, if you want to start us off.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. This did come through health and safety this 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago. I can't remember timelines, but and Chief Kinney explained the request and the need for the addition of the 3 officers. 2 of them were, I believe, were approved in the budget process last year. So I'm going to let Chief Kinney just give a brief synopsis of the request and the funding that is available to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Just one correction, the positions were not approved in the budget process to this point yet.
Well, I thought 2 of the positions were previously in the budget.
No, sir.
No.
They were approved through the Finance Committee when we originally signed the contract with
okay.
Lafayette Township.
My mistake.
Yes, sir.
Correct. Thank you.
So this request is to amend the salary and benefits code to allow 3 more officers. One of the officers will be paid for by the McDAC grant. If you look at the cost analysis I submitted with the request for council action, that initial estimate for that grant, we were estimating at $120,000 to cover the cost for that officer. We were pleasantly surprised when we were awarded a $259,000 through the McDAC grant. Of course, that's pending the commissioner's approval, but the McDAC board approved that amount for us for school resource officers. So that award would fund the 1 school resource officer position that I'm requesting. The other 2 officers would come from the Lafayette Township Police contract that was discussed back in the finance when we signed that agreement. The request back then was for 2 additional officers, and that will be paid for with the revenue that we receive from that pass-through levy. The amount that we had, that we took in, the revenue that we brought in for that levy was $391,000 for 2020. So we are anticipating a similar amount in 2021 and on. We're expecting similar amounts for the McDAC grant as well for the existence of that levy. It was just renewed, so we'll have 4 more grant cycles on the McDAC levy as well. These positions would all be, they're all contingent on that funding. So if that funding disappears, these positions would go away. Just to give a little bit of perspective, we would do that through attrition. The past 2 years, we've had 2 retirements, and we have 8 officers that are eligible for retirement in the next 4 years. So that attrition is definitely feasible if we do need to eliminate those positions based on the loss of that funding.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Rose?
Thank you, sir. That $259,000 from the McDAC grant, is that projected to be annual, or just this cycle, and then next year we get another grant?
That's for this cycle, this
Okay.
fiscal year. For this fiscal year, for this
Okay, for
grant
this fiscal year. So
yes,
then
sir.
Next fiscal year, it will be, could be something different.
Yes, sir. It could be something different. We will reapply. This past grant cycle, the McDack board made their preference was to fund the drug task force fully, and then after the drug task force was to fund the school resource officer. So essentially, they funded the drug task force for their ask, which was roughly $910,000, and then the remainder of the levy was spread out through all the school resource officer requests throughout the county.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
since I work for the schools, I've been working with the chief a little bit on the SRO side of things, so even though part of this is funded through Lafayette, I'm going to need to abstain, I think, just to...
Okay.
No further questions. Move to approve.
Second?
Just to clarify, I'm going to vote no on this just because I believe that, I understand that we're getting the money from Lafayette Township, but I think it should be staggered more. I think that we're operating fine according to the last meeting. You mentioned that we're operating currently fine with what we're doing with our officers we have, but I understand what everybody wants to do. I just don't feel comfortable committing to that kind of money. So, anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Abstentions?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item we have is 21-101, Budget Amendment, and this is coming from the court. Oh, I looked at that name down there. I said, I don't know that name. Okay, it's Cindy, but it's Cindy with a C period. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just a budget amendment to cover those probationers who are doing community service. This is a yearly insurance that we pay, and it comes out of the Community Service Fund.
Any questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21-102, Job Creation Grant Payment for Carlisle Brake and Friction. Ms. Marshall?
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is to authorize a job creation grant payment to Friction Products, also known as Carlisle Brake and Friction, for tax year 2020 in the amount of $18,750.06. This grant is a result of their 150,000 square foot expansion project for the enhanced steel processing and warehousing. And if you'll recall, that was the attraction project when they closed Oklahoma and moved that production here. They committed to creating 70 new full-time jobs and a minimum payroll of $3,010,010. And while the employment numbers were down a little bit in 2020 from the previous year, they still have met and exceeded their payroll goal, which is at $5.4 million. The employment numbers at the end of 2020 were 51. At the monitoring meeting that we held on May 7th of this year with the company, they indicated that they had just hired 10 more production workers. So that would bring the number back up to 61, and then additionally, they need to hire another 40 employees. The pandemic obviously did have an effect on their business and employment. However, the company is back in a growth mode, and just like all the other manufacturing companies, they need to hire 40 more people, which would then exceed that number, but they're having problems because of the, with the unemployment situation. So the payroll information was verified with Rita, and in light of the efforts made to continue to hire, they've been offering hiring bonuses of like $2,000, employee referral bonuses, et cetera. We respectfully request council to authorize this grant payment because they did exceed their payroll goal. And just a reminder to council and the public that the job creation grant payments are made with non-income tax generated revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Rhodes?
Thank you. The actual new payroll, did that include those bonuses that you spoke of?
No, the increase in the payroll number was due to a lot of the employees getting paid overtime to fill the gap of the positions that, they're having trouble filling.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21103, job creation grant payment to Discount Drug Mart. Ms. Marshall?
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is to authorize a job creation grant payment to Discount Drug Mart for tax year 2020 in the amount of $19,587.38. This grant is a result of 3 different expansion projects. So they had the call center project in 2013. They had the Gentry Health Project in 2014, and that was the specialty pharmacy, and then the Hastings Acquisition Project in 2014. So when you look at those 3 grants and you combine that, it takes that number to $19,587.38. I have those broken down by project. So if you're interested in those numbers, the call center project portion grant is $4,687.50. The Gentry Health is $9,520, and then the Hastings is $5,379.88. With these 3 projects, the company committed to creating 83 new full-time jobs and a minimum of $3,145,797 in payroll. The company has met and exceeded those goals by creating 110 jobs. So they're over their job creation number, and their payroll is at, for those 3 total, is $4,673,123. The payroll information was verified with Rita. At the monitoring meeting held on April 13th, the company indicated that they have a need to hire more workers in their warehouse, and they have resumed looking at potential locations to add additional stores in the state of Ohio. So if you think about the warehouse, and they're corporately headquartered here, that warehouse serves distribution to all their stores throughout the state. On a side note, the company gave us a tour of their warehouse operations and once again reiterated that they like being a part of the Medina community because the economic development support received from the city and the county to help businesses grow. So with that, we respectfully request council to authorize this grant payment. And again, as a reminder to council and the public that the grant payments are made with non-income tax generated revenues. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, another one coming up is 21104, job creation grant payment to Sandra Food Corporation. Mrs. Marshall?
Thank you, Mr. President. So this request is to authorize a job creation grant payment to Sandridge Food Corporation for tax year 2020 in the amount of $33,717.45. This is for 2 job creation grants as follows. These grants are a result of 2 expansion projects in their warehouse production and employee welfare areas, as well as investments in machinery and equipment. So if you recall, the dry warehouse expansion project was in 2012. And so that grant is $22,500 where they have met their goals. The second one is the JCG 12 production expansion machinery and equipment project. And that was in 2017. And that grant amount is $11,217.45. Now that one, they are at 97.5% of their goal. So I'm going to explain a little bit about that. So the monitoring meeting was held with the company on April 21st. While the job numbers are a little down from previous years on that second project, the payroll goal has still been met. So due to COVID-19, the food service side of the business was impacted, so it dipped. Hence, the company needed to become more efficient, and so they are hiring higher skilled, higher paying employees. At the end of 2020, they were at 563 employees. Since then, just this year alone, they've already added 108 employees, and that was as of May 15th. That's in their production area. And they still need to hire another 30. This will bring them to 701 employees total when they get the other 30 hired. The overall goal for both grants combined is 717. So they're only like off by 16. So the company is struggling to hire additional employees due to the increased and extended unemployment benefits at the state and federal level. And since then, they have implemented hiring bonuses, employee referral bonuses, and the company this year increased the wages for their bargaining unit employees. The company is also considering additional projects and expansion plans. And so they shared a little bit with us about that. And so with that said, we feel that they have put forth a tremendous effort to continue to hire their workforce and grow the company in challenging times. And we're respectfully requesting council to authorize the job creation grant payment. And again, these are paid through the non-income tax generated revenues. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
Mr. Rose?
That's okay. All right, real quick, that, you mentioned that the bargain for employees at Sandridge are getting a raise through their collective bargaining agreement, I'm assuming. That raise is only that's calculated for this, is just those employees who are brought in with this?
No.
Or is that?
No, I'm sorry. So the bargaining unit are all the existing employees in the bargaining unit. So those pay raises will occur this year. So the point being that when we go to monitor again next year, you're going to see higher payroll because all those people are getting pay increases.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
so there's going to be a higher bar than to meet.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And one thing, I did some real quick math. Just these grants right here, the city netted $98,000 in additional income taxes, just on these here. So thank you, Kimberly, for your excellent work, and Mayor and the staff for bringing in these extra dollars. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 21-105, agreement with, to provide snow and ice services to York Township for the 2021-2022 season. Mr. Pacoli.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I've been having discussions with trustee Bill Pavlik. He's actually in attendance here tonight from York Township. It's an opportunity for Medina City Service Department to provide the snow and ice control for York Township, obviously being adjacent, and I think you could see the map. It's behind you, so you really can't see it. So they have 26, York Township has 26 road miles, 52 curb lane miles, versus the city, we have 112 road miles and 224 curb lane miles. So they're about 25% of what we do for capacity, and that's reaffirmed by the amount of salt. And in talking with Bill, he's approximately about 500 tons of salt in a season. We use probably 2,200, 2,400 on a moderate winter. Again, it's an opportunity. We have 8 large plow trucks. We will be coming to council. We haven't purchased a truck in the last 4 years, and last year with the reductions, this year we're looking to replace a couple trucks. We have our budgets up and coming, so we'll have that discussion. We have plenty of CDL drivers. There were a lot of questions back and forth. I did talk with the mayor. You know, would the city of Medina see a reduction in service? You would not. We have plenty of CDL drivers. We have approximately 24 CDL drivers. That's not including the supervisors and myself, who have been known once in a while to get into a truck if need be. In talking with Mr. Pavlik, the contractor that's been providing the service for them for years typically uses 1 large truck and then 2 smaller trucks in their service, and that's more than that's easy to accommodate with respect to our service. So,
Nino, I have a question. Previously, this service was provided by Fabrizi to York Township, isn't that correct? Yes. Yeah, and Fabrizi is a private company, right? Yeah. So why is the township asking the city to compete with a private company that's providing the service for the last 20-some years, or I don't know if Fabrizi done it, but why is the government competing with the private entity for this service?
Fabrizi chose not to rebid, and we put the bid out last fall. As a courtesy to us, they got us through this past winter, and we put the bid back out. Croston Construction previously did that before Fabrizi, and he chose not to bid. So when we we had no one else to bid. I came to Nino. They did it for profit, and I provided all the hourly rate, and we're more than happy to pay the hourly rate that we were paying for Breezy, and they made a profit on that. And typically, last year, we went through 500 tons. If it's a real bad winter where we get 100 inches of snow, we've gone through as many as 800 tons of salt.
So is the expectation that going forward, the city of Medina is going to be doing this, and you're not going to be bidding with the other private companies that do this work?
Correct, yes.
Why? Given the fact that I'm a York Township resident, I'm asking this question.
Well, we didn't get any, there was no interest in the private sector, so we came to the city.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a problem doing it. I mean, is your question more of not to compete with the private vendors?
That would be my question.
Well, I guess kind of that, looking at that, I mean, we do our own sanitation, and there has been talk about privatizing that. Sometimes privatizing is not the answer. Sometimes private vendors don't provide the best solution. I would assume that our plow truck operators would provide a service that is equal to or better, hopefully, than the private industry, but who knows? You know, I guess the answer is not always privatization is better service at a cheaper cost. That's how I look at it, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, York Township may think, well, this is not going the way we want, or they may say, this is going better than we thought. So I guess it's trial and error, and to Greg's point, I guess, you know, after that point, may the best provider win, whether it be government or private industry.
I think the first year will probably be a learning curve on both sides, and, you know, I think it'll just, I believe the service after the first year, you know, will be a learning curve, because we have some developments, and Nino and I have talked. I know the problem areas, and I think after everyone's got a year's experience in, things will improve, so we don't expect it to be perfect the first year.
Well, I think for people who live in York Township, the issues have been a question of the bidding process allows for some competition. If this for this year, makes perfect sense. But if this goes forward, where this is the usual, and Nino prepares accordingly because he has to, and there is no longer any bidding process, which traditionally has been how it's handled, then the competition is cut out, and the city of Medina is providing the service, which is the issue that a few township trustee residents, more so than myself, have had a question about.
Mayor?
Bill, how long of a contract are you looking for in the first place?
Well, typically it's a 3-year contract.
Okay.
That would be great if we could do that. We'd be more than willing to do a 3-year.
Okay. So, Mr. Huber, on behalf of the residents of York Township, maybe that you haven't spoken to, what I've found in my years with the city is collaboration between government entities that don't have to make a profit is beneficial to both those providing the service and those receiving the service, because you take the profit margin out. Now, in the same respect, if 3 years from now, one of these companies want to come in and undercut what the city's charging York Township, and York Township feels they'll get equal to or better service, then they would have a right to change it at that point in time. But in any of the collaborative approaches we've taken, be it fire, be it police, be it collaboration with the schools, I've not seen any of the governments end up spending more money.
I agree.
Mr. Lamb?
Collaboration as well. So Nino, if we go forward with this, we don't need to hire any new employees. We do this in-house with the numbers that we have currently. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just want to, follow up on what the mayor said, because to me, I mean, those are the things I think you like to, I like to hear those things here, because really if we can collaborate with the township, benefit to our community, because we have the equipment and we have the employees, and a benefit to the township, And I think that's what folks are looking for. And I think that the examples that the mayor cited with the police and fire, the work we've done with townships, with sports fields, I mean, all those things I think are to the benefit of the taxpayer. And absolutely that key is that we don't operate on a profit, but we have a system in place already built in that can perform this, this task, which is a pretty arduous thing sometimes, depending on the weather. So I think it's exciting. I mean, I think it's what, the kind of things I look forward to hearing when I'm here. And I appreciate the work you've done on it, and Bill too, Bill Pavlik as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rose?
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple of questions. First, the title of this legislation says 2021, 22. Mr. Pavlik said 3 years. Which is it? Is it going to be 3 years or just this coming season?
So we didn't talk about a contract, to be honest with you, and that would have to go to the law director. For my initial request in the discussion, it was for the upcoming winter season, but if the law director's fine, I'm good with a 3-year contract. So, yes, so that Bill Pavlik and I did not have a conversation about it, about contract discussions, so.
Okay, all right. And then we have enough equipment that city residents will have their streets done at the same time York?
We do. We talked
We won't-
about that. So
Okay.
we have 8 large plow trucks and we have 7 small trucks. We do have a request coming forth for replacement of our large plow trucks for 2, because with the pandemic, we didn't buy anything with reduction, and 4 years ago was the last time we replaced trucks. So whether we enter an agreement with York or not, we were going to request purchases of new trucks to keep the replacement going.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Coyne.
Mayor?
Let me just clarify for Councilman Rose that out of respect for both council and Nino, we didn't want to get this train too far down the track if there was not interest with the council. So right now, it's just been preliminary discussions. A, can we handle it with existing staffing, with existing trucks? Do we have the time? Do we have the personnel? Do we have the equipment? And then the details of exactly what's in the contract, the duration of the contract, things of that nature. We've simply not vetted it yet. But I just, because of the discussion with Mr. Huber and the trustee, I just wanted to make sure that, our expectations and theirs weren't, 2 different places.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Shields?
Mr. Coyne, and I don't want to repeat everything that's already been said, but I do think there's something about being a good neighbor to one of our neighboring townships. We have great relationship with Montville. We've been working with Lafayette for police. I just think if we can help and they have the need and we can do it, we should be willing to do that. And I do believe the public appreciates that. And I know I have a bias, but it does work really well for the schools. We've done well to help each other out. So.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Heffinger?
I was going to say something along the same thing as Mr. Shields just did, but I guess my question is, do we have the ability to not re-up this if we want as a city? Because they're not getting private people to bid on these things. If we decide that our services here are getting slower while doing theirs, do we have the ability to walk away?
I guess the question I'm asking is, tonight you just want to see if we have a buy-in, and what I would do is have them go negotiate the contract with Mr. Huber involved, and probably the county would be involved, and then come back to us, and then we'd vote on it. Is that kind of what the direction we want to take? Because I don't know what we'd vote on tonight. We don't have a contract.
Right.
That's
right.
correct.
It's just a discussion tonight.
Okay.
But more to Councilman Heffinger's point, if it's a 3-year contract, then both sides get to review it after 3 years. And if they choose not to renew it, then it doesn't renew, whether they have bids or they don't have bids. Now, I'm not saying I expect that to happen, but the whole point of a contract is that there's an end period for both parties to review it and make sure it's in both of their interests.
I understand that if we sign into a contract. I guess I'm suggesting that maybe 3 years is a long starting period for a first time. I mean, it's working out for the fire departments, it's working out for the police departments, but maybe a singular year or 2 years is maybe what we want to start talking about. This is a suggestion.
I guess we had, in other contracts we've done, abilities to either party to terminate, and maybe in this contract, we could, after the season's over, the question really becomes, you need enough time to bid it out. You need plenty of lead time to make a determination if it's working or not. So, I don't know what that lead time would be. they would probably have to, if you go through the season and the spring comes, I don't know if bidding it out after the season's over in March is long enough to get somebody for the next fall. That's kind of the question. But I think at least you can give a season. I think it would have to be a minimum of 2 seasons, and you can get out. You may not necessarily have to go to third season. So that's something to be negotiated between the township trustees and the law director and us, I guess, because we make the final decision. So.
Bill, have you talked to the Medina County prosecutor about this issue at all? Because I agree with the mayor with respect to the principle of collaboration, but I'm not sure about township's responsibilities with respect to services and just entering into a contract that turns into a long-term process without some kind of bid process somewhere along the line. It's the bid process that people have wondered about in terms of how this is going to go forward in discussions that I've had.
Well, we, like I said before, we attempted the bid process. We put it out in March and had no results. And you have to go, in the spring, you have to lock in someone. So when we didn't get any results with that.
Well, I understand about this year because you
Sure.
guys, you're in a corner.
Well,
The question I had was, what is the township's responsibilities legally with respect to a service like this that's been bid for years after this year goes by? Because that's where I got a little lost.
Well, until we have a proposal and it's agreed upon with both sides, then we would proceed to have the prosecutor's office look it over and go through it and advise us on how to proceed. So
So you're saying at this point, none of the prosecutors have looked at this, is that right?
no, that's correct, because
Okay.
I didn't know if we were even going to have an agreement. Until you have an agreement, you don't have anything to take to the prosecutor.
Mrs. Hazeltine?
First, let me clarify, Mr. Huber. You know I have great love and respect for you. I'm just asking this question because I'm hearing a lot of township concerns from you, but you're going to be representing the city during these conversations, so that's not a conflict of interest for you, correct? Not
No,
legally, just personally.
It's not, it's an issue, and the issue came up in discussion about what happened when I guess there was a falling out between Mr. Fabrizi and the trustees. I'm not sure what that was about. But the question came up as to what the township is going to do in terms of a long-term service here, because I thought that there needs to be some idea in terms of a bid process, because you don't just enter into a contract with another municipality without some form of a bid process. And that's why I bring it up, because it's generated discussion.
Yeah, questions are always good. I always appreciate hearing more about it, so thank you for not being offended by my question. Also, I'd like to agree with Mr. Pavlik anyway, because I don't want any parking tickets. Just kidding.
Sorry about that.
Mr. Simpson?
Mr. Pavlik, I thank you for your input tonight, and along with the mayor and Mr. Huber and the rest of the council members. The collaboration that we've developed with your township,
Yes.
with Montville Township and Medina Township and Lafayette Township, along with the schools, has done nothing to benefit all parties.
I agree.
So I'm hopeful that once, the contract could be written and we could agree to it, that it would follow the same laws. It would benefit both your township and the residents of Medina. So, thank you.
Thank you.
What I hear from the council members is, I think, go back and, if you wanted to try the 3-year contract, try to start the negotiations. That I think it's going to have to be a minimum of a 2-year contract based upon the bidding process anyways.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't think there's any way you're going to be able to get around that. But I understand Mr. Huber's concerns from the residents of York Township. They just want to know what direction is going to be heading in, and if there's going to be any time in the future a rebid of something. And I think there is, from what I'm hearing. So I think if you guys can go back and start to put together some type of contract that provides the service that is needed for the township, that we could provide and try to determine what direction, and, maybe it's a 2 or 3 year process for the township to determine the direction they want to go. And I think what I'm hearing is we're willing to entertain that, that proposal.
Mr. Coyne, just one more thing.
Mayor?
So based on what Mr. Huber's saying, Bill, I'd respectfully ask you to check with Mike Lyons.
Yes, sir.
So that our group and your group don't work all our way through this contract, and then when we send it for review, determine that it's not even possible to do this or to do it for an extended period of time. So that being said, if you could at least breach the topic with Mike Lyons, who I believe represents
Yes, sir.
your township, right? And then if he has questions or wants to call Greg and the two of them chat about it, I just don't want to see your township go through a bunch of work and get your hopes up, and us go to a bunch of work and get our hopes up, and then legally, we can't possibly do it. So I think that'd be the best bet.
Okay, thank you. I certainly will. Well,
Mr.
So we'll
Huber, you're
leave
going to love our services, Mr. Huber. You're going to love our services.
Oh, I thought we were negotiating that we were skipping his street.
Just ask John.
Yeah, he has tractors, so he's covered.
We plow our own anyways.
So if Mr. Picola, you and Mr. Pavlik can get together and provide us a little bit of first confirmation, and then we can enter into the agreement, if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, everyone okay with that? Okay. All
Appreciate
right,
it.
thank
Not to
you.
belabor this conversation, but City of Wadsworth called us and wanted us to sweep their streets, and we declined because that's a laborious, slow process, and that's something we couldn't deliver on. So we opted not to do that this year.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thanks, Bill. Thanks for all
Thank
the
you.
input.
Thank you.
Thank you.
21106, establish a number 157 fund for the pretrial drug testing fund for the Muni Court. Cindy?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a fee that we would like to implement. This is for those defendants that are on bond, are out on bond prior to their trial. This will, the idea is for them to, if they're possibly under the influence while they're on bond conditions and they're not supposed to be under the influence, our bailiffs and probation department have the tests available. It's also for those defendants that are under suspect when they come into court. The tests run about $4 and some change to get with shipping, so we just figured we'd make it a flat $5 fee on top of all new complaints that come in.
Thank you. Any questions?
Move to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21107, expenditure to root integrated systems for the police department. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the engineering consultation in the installation of the video wall in dispatch. This is one of the projects that we had earmarked for the COVID funds, and we did our due diligence and finally came to a vendor along with the equipment to implement that video wall. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Move to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21108, fiscal year 21 Cdbg allocation grant. Mr. Mendel?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a request to permit the council to, for the administration to submit for and accept a small cities community development block grant allocation from the state of Ohio. It would be in the amount of $150,000. This is the allocation that we do every 2 years. This may be the last cycle that the state of Ohio provides this grant program, but we'll keep an eye on that so that the normal functions that we pay for through this we can allocate elsewhere. But for this cycle, at least from PY21 for a 2-year cycle, we would like to apply for it with the activities as outlined in the RCA, which are pretty typical to ones that we've done in previous years. We have had a couple of the required public hearings, and we will have another one on June 9th, and we do have a June 16th, 2021 application deadline to the state. Therefore, given that today's date, we would ask the emergency clause so that we can implement it and submit the application as soon as possible before on June 16th of 21. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the public service 60,500, what portion of that goes to the transit? I mean, we used to give transit money every year. Is that what?
Typically about It's usually about $10,500, which is about a fourth of the total that the city of Medina provides to the Medina County Transit Authority. The money through the allocation is, like I said, usually only about 25% per year, so it's actually double that. The other public service is to support a local community group that helps, brings at-risk youth together to help households that maybe are elderly or unable to take care of their properties, to mow the lawns for them, to do trimming, shrubs and tree trimming, and then also to be paid for that and kind of develop some work skills as well. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including the emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21109, a discussion with the agreement with Branstetter Carroll conceptual design of the courthouse. Mayor, I think this is you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So I would respectfully ask council to authorize and appropriate an amount not to exceed $15,000 to be split evenly between the two account numbers listed in the second paragraph there. One is the court fees saved for this, and the other is the capital for the city. The quote itself is $13,000, but I just didn't want to get halfway down the plan and have something come up that we didn't expect. So this just gives us a little bit of leeway. I'd also respectfully ask the Finance Committee to pass this subject to the Board of Elections certification of the May 4th, 2021 election and passage of issue 1. That's supposed to occur tomorrow. What I didn't want to do is waste this 2 weeks with them approving it Tuesday and then wait and take it the first meeting in June. This saves us the 2 weeks, provided, and it still has to go to council, provided that it gets certified as we anticipate it to.
Well, I appreciate that. I guess my only question is, I know that this is really between the municipal court and council, and administration is kind of out of it. And I guess we probably should have a meeting with the judge to talk about what he wants to have over there. Do we still have our same deal where he's going to have $4.3 million given to it, and then he's going to implement the fee, and we're going to cover the difference? I mean, I guess there's a lot of questions that I have, and I don't know if anybody knows the answers to of what's the project going to be. I know we're going to go into the 1969 building, but what is it? I mean, what is our agreement with the judge? Is it still the same before? I mean, does he agree that he's going to put all his 4.6 in, he's going to re-implement the fees, and we're only going to pay the difference between 4.3 and 5 million, half of that? Is that what the deal is still? Because that's what I think it is.
Well, I don't know that we know the deal yet, because we don't know what the number is yet, and we won't know what the number is yet until we do these conceptual plans to see, do they meet the judge's needs, and does the judge feel this is going to provide him what he needs to run his court. And then from there, we would have to go to the engineering plans, which would result in then estimated construction and cost estimates.
Sure.
But this is like just the first step to get there.
Well, no, I get it. I get that part of it. I'm just trying to figure out, we've been through this process for 20-some years.
Right.
So we kind of know where we're going, and I just want to make sure that at the beginning, we're all still on the same page. And I understand the issue, one, and subject to it, but I mean, we're going to have 2 years before we even start construction, because
Yes.
I think they got to move out of there first, and.
Yes.
And I think, when's the county, I thought they would start construction, or at least mobilization.
Yeah, the foundation work and the underground is all going to start here in the next month or so. That's been through our boards and commissions, and it's good to go. The construction plans are just being finalized now, so then that will have to come through, first approved by the commissioners, come through our boards and commissions. And you're right, the project's going to be maybe a little more than
Right.
2 years. So we do have the time to do those things, but we also have to be preparing and getting all our things in a row, so then we're not wasting time.
No, I agree
later.
with that. I mean, as
Yeah.
long as my understanding, and I think I would want the motion to include it, of what our financial contribution will be as a council. So we could approve this as long as it's subject to the Board of Elections and also subject to him re-implementing the fee that he was going to implement before, him putting 4.3 million of his fund in there and us only contributing half of the difference then, like we were going to do at the other courthouse. I think that's fair.
I think that's fair, too. That's
Okay.
my understanding of where we're at. We have not had that particular conversation. We had it with the new building, but not with the 69 building. But if the council would feel better, we're going to visit this on whatever the June meeting is, June 12th.
Sure.
I could invite the judge and make sure that that's his, and we would all be on the record then.
Sure, that's
Fair-
fine.
fair
So
enough.
we could pass it now with that qualification in the motion.
Yes,
And then
sir.
if he disagrees with it, then we can pull it on the 12th. I just want to make sure, from a
Understood.
financial perspective, that's where I'm at. I don't know if anybody else is at a different spot, but I think we went through it enough, and we kind of know what our contribution wants to be and what the judge's contribution should be, going back to Judge Chase. So I think we still keep that consistency in implementation. Is everybody okay with that?
And out of fairness, just for clarification, President Coyne, so he started with $4.3 million, but we have spent some money along the way here.
Sure, with
Yeah, okay.
the project,
Right,
yeah.
so it
It's
might
not
not
that
be-
much less, but
Okay,
it's
okay.
it's a little.
I'm just saying,
yeah,
just for clarification.
Right. Is everybody okay with that?
Sure. So I will make a motion to approve this agreement, subject to certification of the election, the May 4th issue 1 election, as well as subject to the previously discussed financial sharing arrangements between the court and the city.
Second?
Anybody have any questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay. 21-110, job creation grant payment for Progressive Medina LLC. Mrs. Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is to authorize a job creation grant payment to Progressive Medina LLC for tax year 2020 in the amount of $14,941.20. It's really at the Board of Control level, but it got put on this agenda, so we just decided to keep it here. This grant is a result of locating their business in the city of Medina and constructing a 70-bed skilled nursing facility at 699 East Smith Road. And for those of you that have been on council a while, you'll recall that this was a 2012 project. They committed to creating 55 new full-time jobs and a minimum of $2.8 million in payroll. And while the payroll was down a little bit from last year, they still have exceeded their payroll goals at $2,988,240. Monitoring meeting was held on April 21st. The company, again, was impacted by COVID, but has stabilized and continues to struggle finding workforce just like everybody else. They need to hire RNs, LPNs, nurses' aides. The payroll information was verified by Rita. So with all that said, we respectfully request council to authorize this grant payment. This will be the final grant payment on this project. And just a reminder to council and the public that the grant payments are made with non-income tax generated revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21-111, amend salaries and benefits code 3105, tree care technicians for the Parks Department. Mr. Worley?
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is to amend pay code 3105 to upgrade the full-time tree care technician from 31, which is a laborer classification, to 34, which is a MEO classification. Early in 2020, we received approval through the budgeting process and through council approval to make our tree care technician full-time from part-time. At that time, I placed it in 31 classification, which was partially an oversight as we've got specialized equipment and a new truck which requires CDL, commercial driver's license. It's become apparent over the last year that upgrading the pay to MEO will help us maintain stability in the position, as it's our upper level union position. And this job, this particular classification and the positions in our forestry department, we've had quite the revolving door over the last 10 years. I've personally have trained 11 people, 3 of which are still with the city, 2 in other departments. So I'm hoping that we can utilize our carry forward, which we have started to save up over the years because of the additional work that we're doing in-house. There's a value to that, and as our trees continue to grow and get larger, we're maintaining them within our current budget by finding new tools and new ways of doing things. So I'm respectfully asking to use carry forward to fund this change and hopefully be able to add a little bit of stability to the department for the benefit of the city. I did take this to the Shade Tree Commission, and they voted in favor of it. Thank you.
I know you and I had a conversation. Did you have an opportunity to talk to Nino a little bit about, on the maintenance part of it, in his department, if we're getting these certifications for the individual, having some kind of obligation to serve at least a period of time so that we don't pay for certifications and they leave? I mean, is that something we could add to this?
We haven't had the opportunity to sit down and talk about that, but it's a little bit different than the vehicle maintenance department where they're paying a lot of money for particular certifications. A lot of what we do is there's a portion of paid training and then a lot of free training that's offered through Ohio Department of Natural Resources, the Ohio Independent Arborists Association. So we are continually going to classes to learn about new techniques and use free resources, whether it be from the state. We do have certain training that we're sending our staff to, including street department employees. But a lot of what the forestry department does is out in the field, and it's highly skilled. It's not like you can't just hire somebody off the street, give them a shovel, and show them how to rake, and they can do their job. It takes a while to get them trained up to be efficient and productive and safe in the field. That's a long answer, but we haven't had those conversations.
Well, I just wanted to make sure if we're going to be providing, hiring somebody up to this level and providing them with a better pay and providing that training, that we get the benefit of that training, because there might be another job out there, probably is, that pays more, and they would just go to another job, then we're going to start the training process over again. And I didn't know if we could do something, if we're going to move them up to this position, if we could keep them for a while, at least to get the benefit of all of our, the pay that they're getting from the city and the training, whether it be internal or not, that we get the benefit of that. And I don't know if Mr. Huber, if there's legally we could do that, or if it's something that is outside the contract, or, just to take advantage of that, providing that service that we're providing the individual and the training both internally and externally, if we can have somebody agree to stay on a little bit of time so we can take advantage of that. What do you think?
Crickets.
I'll have to talk to Jansen about it. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, I think it's a good idea. If we're going to be giving these pay increases and getting quality people, we want to keep them. I mean, that's the goal.
So to answer your question, I think, and to clear it up a little bit, the issue previously was people were leaving for full-time jobs. We have full-time jobs now. What I'm hoping to do with this increase and investing in our employee is to eliminate competing against our other departments in the city.
Well, that's part of it too, but there's other cities out there that, they would love to cherry pick people that anybody trains, and they would take our people. And I guess, I don't know if there's a way to slow that down, let's say. I don't think you're going to eliminate it, but maybe we can slow that down. And Mr. Shields, maybe you have experience through the schools.
So are you thinking of an anti-competition clause?
No, I'm thinking of.
He wants them to pay the training monies back.
Or something.
Greg and I had this conversation when I was the police chief, and, sometimes we're sending somebody to the police academy and investing the amount of time.
Right.
The time we can't get back because they spent the time down there, but the cost of the academy, at least back then. And Mr. Huber's answer, if this helps him at all tonight, was that if they agree to pay it, that's fine. If they contest paying it, we probably couldn't compel it.
And we do, Ms. Coyne, we have several similar situations where we have like a 2-year payback if you leave. But I think what I'm hearing from Jansen is that a lot of times they get here and then it's free training. It's not anything out of our pockets, and they're on-the-job training as well. But what he's trying to do by raising this a little bit is to keep this person here, but nothing would stop us if this person left to go back to the old lower pay rate until we got the person trained. But I understand what you're trying to do as far as make it more attractive for them to stay and not to move to
Yeah,
another
correct.
department now that they've learned all this.
All right. Okay, no, I just want to make sure that we keep our good people any way we can. So if you can, when you're reviewing it, and if there's something that we're missing that we should change, let us know. Any other questions? Mrs. Hazeltine?
I just want to clarify. So basically, the reward to keep them working here, the motivation is the raise, right? Okay. That's all I had to say.
Okay, any other questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 21-112, RFPs for the sponsorships to the MCRC. Mr. Worley?
Thank you, Mr. President. You might recall this request. It was similar back in 2017 when we first introduced the RFP to solicit for services for a donation recognition program at the MCRC. That contract was a 3-year contract with an optional 1-year extension, and it expired on April 30th of this year. We have seen a couple renewals come in. There's actually one on the agenda for this evening that was turned in prior to the end of the contract. But we've done some research in-house and found out that there's other companies that are providing this service now. It's relatively new. We've had a couple conversations about with other communities and how they're doing it differently. So we thought it was a good time to let our contract expire. Over the last 4 years, we've brought in a total of little shy of $30,000, about $7,500 a year. In total, we reach 16 businesses, and we do a 50-50 split of the profits with the school once all the banners and everything are paid for. So we thought it was a good time to solicit for RFPs to see if there's any other companies out there, and revisit how we are doing the sponsorships in the rec center, because we feel like there's a lot of opportunity, and the possibility of doing it differently, as well as negotiating those price splits with the marketing company to hopefully generate and some of that profit, after the initial year, that the percentages will possibly increase for the benefit of the school and the city. So we'd like to solicit for proposals. The RFP that was attached is identical to the RFP from 2017. We just changed the contact information, and we added in an item giving the rec center the capability to secure vendors for special events in-house.
Any questions?
No. But Mr. Coyne, this and the next one benefits my employer, so I'll need to abstain on both of those.
Okay.
Move to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Motion carries. And then 21-113 is the motion to approve the banner, the sponsorship banner. Anybody have any questions on that, or you want to add anything to that? Mr.
It's
Wu?
just a renewal,
Yeah.
1 year.
Move to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions?
Aye.
Motion carries. And then we got 21-114, agreement with West Smith Road Phase 4 right-of-way acquisition services. Mr. Patton.
Thank you, Mr. President. As council knows, we've been under design for a West Smith Road project for almost a year now. We're to the point in the ODOT process where our Stage 2 plans, which are basically 90% design plans, have been completed and approved, and our environmental document has been accepted and approved. Now we have the authorization to start the right-of-way acquisition process. ODOT requires the right-of-way acquisition process to be done by a certified consultant. Our agreement for design is with American Structure Point. Their subconsultant is a company called OR Colon. We've actually used them before on previous federally aided projects. So our agreement with the American Structure Point would be modified to add the cost for OR Colon. I would note American Structure Point is not adding any kind of surcharge to OR Colon's fees. They're just passing them on as is.
Thank you. Any questions?
Move to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Is there anything else to come before finance before we recess into executive session?
Mr. Coyne?
Yes, Mayor?
So I sent the council members and Mr. Huber, just for discussion, some cost sharing of the proposed collaboration between the Common Pleas and the Muni Court, because we also need an agreement with the county commissioners. And Scott Miller and I met after the county commissioners had an open discussion about permitting the two of us to work towards an agreement. But before we get too far down that track, I wanted you all to see kind of what some of the preliminary discussions were. The first is to split 20% at city's cost and 80% at the county cost, and how we arrived at that was 4 judges on their side, 1 judge on our side for the construction, and only for these 3 things that I have listed. They're going to modernize all the electric to the 1841, 1969, and the brand-new building. So we would have 20% of that share. Excavating, which would be the entryway, security area, and the Sally Port holding area, because again, those 3 pieces we're going to have the need for. And then construction costs for those 3 areas as well. An alternative to that is to figure out how much that money is and then charge us a lease amount every year. The county would prefer not to do it that way, as well as, I think it's easier for us to just pay it up front and have a little to no lease amount, which I'll get to here in a second. We will be responsible, at least under our discussions, for 100% for the new hallway that's going to have to be added that was not in any of the original plans to create access from the holding and Sally Port area over to the 1969, 100% for all of the renovations to the 1969. And they've already checked to see if there was a way with the new HVAC system for the brand-new building, could it also incorporate the 2 older buildings, and the systems are so old in the 69 and the 1841, they can't be integrated with one another. So the city would be solely responsible for the upgrade to the HVAC then at 100%. And then operational costs, I've not had a chance to discuss this yet with the judge, but rather they're cleaning, the brand new building in the 1841 and not sending a crew over to clean the municipal court or to pay for maintenance there, and or have our own security there. It didn't make sense to me. So again, if we split those costs by square footage, that seems to be the fairest way versus the 80%, 20%. Because if it's 80%, 20% because of the judges, but the square footage is more like 15% or 22%. I haven't done the math yet because I don't know what their building is yet because it's not fully designed. That makes the most sense to me. They've agreed to separately meter for both gas and electric the 1969, so we know whatever's being used in our building is theirs. And I recommended a lease for $1 a year for 50 years or for 25 years with multiple extensions. And they were acceptable to that and would want to see something similar for the municipal court building. And then last but not least, in the 69 building is the current law library. And if we keep the law library in the 69 building, their preference was to have 24/7 access, which is not going to work in its current location because they would actually have access then to other parts of the court, which from a security standpoint, would, in my opinion, would not be a good idea. So then the question we have to, and the judge and I have not had this conversation yet either, the question is if we have it there, do we design then with the remodel of the 69, putting it on an outdoor wall with a separate outdoor door that can be key carded, and they have access to that and nothing but that from outside of the building? Is that possible, and what's the additional cost to do that? The other is to keep it where it is, And we can't say for sure whether it's going to be that same exact square footage or not, because they may need to have the prisoner elevator in that general area. And if that's the case, and that's the location that matches with the courtrooms upstairs, there's going to be no choice but to have it there. And if that's the case, then it would only be permitted to be used during the municipal court hours, and not on weekends and not in the evenings. So those are some things for us to ponder and think about. We don't need a decision tonight, but I wanted to get in front of you all and just make sure before Scott and I start putting our ideas together that it matches what you all want and it matches what the commissioners want.
In looking at this, I mean, from an operational cost perspective, I'm not sure why maintenance costs would be in there. I would think that we would want to be in charge of our own maintenance of our building and let them be in charge of maintenance of their building. So I think that, I mean, I don't know why we'd want to take that on. The cleaning costs and the security costs, I get it, but again, the square footage for the cleaning costs kind of makes sense, but for the security costs, the judges, 20-80% makes kind of sense because it's, it's a number of judges based upon that. The HVAC, I think you're right, we got to do our own HVAC because that's part of our renovation, and we would pay for our own HVAC and the ongoing maintenance of that. And the utilities separately metered, we pay our own, they pay their own. So really the only thing that I see that we have to really think about, in my mind, is what do we do about the access to the Sally Port and the construction of that or use of that? How does that bode as far as the cost is concerned on that, and how do you separate that, because it's part of the one building, and I don't know if the architect can get that detail to separate the cost of putting in a Sally Port or not, because it's so integrated into the new building. How do you, maybe they could tell us how they do it, because I don't understand how they would do it. That would be kind of a question.
I'm sorry, we're not talking about a new Sally Port. We're talking about using the existing.
Right, I mean,
a new Sally Port for us. We're using their Sally Port.
Right.
But what was not in any of the plans was how to get from the Sally Port to the 1969, because all of the courts were in the new building. And now this is a whole new dynamic, getting prisoners in areas that the public or the court personnel are not using. So it's literally a dedicated hallway just for prisoner transport from the new Sally Port area over to the 69 that had not been thought about before, because we were all going to be in one building.
Okay, I just didn't know if like number 1 and number 4, I mean, because number 1 talks about splitting for the modernization of the electric in the 1841. I don't know why we would do that. We wouldn't be involved in that. We're only involved in a 1969 building. So we wouldn't pay anything for electric in the 1841 building or the new building. That would be all theirs.
Well, I guess the question is, can they separate that out? Or when I say modernization, they have these huge transformers downstairs in the 69 building that are going to have to be removed, which will then open up some more space in the 69 building.
Okay.
But they have to bring all new service in, all new panels in, across all of the buildings. Now, I agree with you, that's a question, could they isolate the cost
Right.
of the 69?
Right.
Or maybe the general, bringing it in, maybe that's 20%, but then whatever the costs are for the electric needs in the 69,
Right.
could that go back to the actual cost versus a 20%? We can sort our way through that. I just don't know that it's possible, or is it one contract and we're doing the whole thing, and then,
Yeah, I guess that's kind of a clarification we need to know is what is the expectations on that? Because I guess I don't understand that well enough to understand how you would either separate it or how we would participate in it if really we're only going to be in a 69 building.
Right.
I wouldn't think we would pay anything for the 1841 or the new building, but I mean, there may be some use, and that comes to the next question of you're right, how do we get to the Sally Port? And B says excavating entry, security area, Sally Port, and holding area. How would we use that? I mean, how do you calculate what is the excavation of the Sally Port area? How do you know that? I mean, I don't know how they divide it up.
Well, okay, maybe I'm complicating it. So let's say, for argument's sake, it's $100,000, just to pick a number, $100,000 to do the Sally Port excavation. The city would pay 20% of that. So then it's another 500,000 for the construction of the Sally Port area. The city would pay 125,000 of that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we have to figure that out, because I don't know how you excavate the Sallyport area when there's 4 floors above the Sallyport area that use the same excavation. And I don't know if that's really 20% then, because now that's the whole thing. I don't know how you divide that up. I don't know how you figure that out. That's very difficult to, because there's just not one building for a Sallyport. The Sallyport's just a room in a bigger building. And what is that room worth? I don't know. That's a good
Well, it's
question.
20% because there's 4 courts in the common fleas and 1 court in the, so we'd still be, even if we were in the new building and on the top floors, let's say, we would still be using the same Sally Port, the division.
But maybe it's square footage rather than a number of judges. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, I don't know. I mean, because
I think
you could have a bigger Sallyport. Is it based, because when we originally were talking about going in with the county was square footage. So maybe it's still square footage with the Sallyport. I mean.
Well, it may be, that 20% may be. My understanding is the only additional cost to the city, I mean, we're still gonna have to participate in the Sally Port at 20%. The only additional
Why
cost.
do you say 20%? Where do you get that number?
Well, or square footage, whatever.
80/20, right?
The only additional
Well,
cost
I
would be
think-
the hallway going.
It's getting
from-
very complicated.
Well, no, I mean,
We're making it complicated.
Well, remember they took us out of the building, so they lessened the square footage, right? So their building's smaller than it would have been if we would have been involved. But now we're in the 69 building with our own square footage, right?
Right.
So, maybe that's how we still calculate the Sallyport. I don't think the Sallyport size changed. I would imagine it'd still be about the same size.
Right.
They have to get it to our building.
No, I
That's the
agree with that.
hallway.
I'm talking about that. I'm
That's
talking
the
about just the
hallway.
Sallyport right now.
I think that it's a good outline, Mayor, anyway. I think it's a good draft outline.
Right.
And I think I think, what you're pointing out, John, I guess we can, once you have your discussion and things we have more detailed information, then maybe we can answer these
Right.
other questions. But I think as far as an outline of where we're going,
Okay.
it seems to really serve the purpose.
I understand the question. I just want to make sure I'm following what you're saying, John. You're saying the excavation may be different because it's not just a single-level Sally Port.
Right.
It's a Sally Port foundation that has to support the
Port-
3 floors
right,
above it.
right.
Okay, I understand what the question is. I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
Can they say, okay, it's this much of excavation, but how much of that is the Sally part and how much is above?
Right, because
I
it
don't
has
know.
to be built differently to support.
I get that.
Right.
I get that, yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure out how are we going to do this? There's a way to do it, but I guess I don't know the answer. No idea. But yeah, I mean, I think what we're getting at is the 69 building is pretty much going to be on us, which I assumed it would have been, because there's 4 walls, we're in it, and then when you have the connecting points to the security and connecting points to the Sallyport, that's where we got to figure out how do we get in there and how do we divide that cost? Because is it exclusively used for us, or is it a shared use?
Well, the hallway would be the exclusive use for us.
Correct.
The security would be a different.
Correct, and the Sallyport would be different, because we're sharing it. Because remember, in the Sallyport, they have their own elevators going down, we're not gonna have an elevator going into it. We're just gonna be leading people out of it to get to our building, I would imagine.
And that, access an elevator on our side.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, probably a new elevator, because it's got to line up with the courtrooms.
Right, yes, right, and then, as far as the cells, I would assume, I'm not sure if we would need any, holding cells in our part, because there'd be holding cells in the Sallyport side.
Right. No, there would not be holding cells in the 69. What there would be is holding areas adjacent to the courtrooms, safe holding areas adjacent to the courtrooms. Those are not Sally ports. Those are a secured room where the officer can be with the prisoner, so they're not interacting with other staff.
Right.
Right. And those are also just adjacent. That's where, when you get off the elevator, you take them right into that room. Right from that room, you can go out the other side, right to the courtroom.
Right.
And that's the whole way this is supposed to work,
Yes.
is they're not around other people.
Right, that's right. Okay, well, it looks like we need more discussion, and I don't know if it needs to be at some point a meeting, just hit it.
Sorry.
Just hit it.
Just a quick point that I wanted to add. Do you feel that points 1 through 6 are in any way contingent upon 7? I understand the appeal to the county, that we would offer them that lease for 50 years, but as the Ward 1 representative, I can't help but also advocate for the community center that Mr. Lamb had mentioned earlier. That would be my preferred use, and would be utilized and greatly needed in my ward. But do you feel that 1 through 6, that's a deal breaker? That we would offer them, kind of a reciprocal relationship regarding the municipal court?
Well, it's going to be difficult when we've told them all along that the municipal court would be available for them for
Okay.
the Board of Elections. Now, what we don't know yet is they've not toured the municipal court to see how the configuration of the building as it exists today, as well as the square footage, matches up to what they have currently. They would like badly to not pay the lease amount they're paying at their current location. But again, if they walk through the building and just feel that it either is not of the size or cannot be configured to work, then they're not going to have an interest in it because they don't want to move into a building that's not going to work for them.
It's my understanding from speaking with the people at the Board of Elections that that is probably not possible in the municipal court building simply because of the mechanics of moving the equipment, keeping it stable as far as temperature stability. Those are the kind of things that I'm hearing from the Board of Elections that may prevent them from using that municipal court building. So I just want to express that should that not happen, should the county not use it, that would be my preferred use for that building.
Understood.
Thank you.
So I think the next step would be maybe more discussions with Mr. Miller and make a determination, maybe have a meeting with us when we get enough information about what they're going to do in their building to come to our building and maybe talk to the architect of costs associated with that. That's kind of what the next step would be, I would assume. Okay. All right, anything else? Okay.
I will make a motion then at 7:16 PM for council to go into executive session for the purpose of conference with the law director for the city of Medina regarding disputes that are subject to pending or imminent court action, to include the mayor and Mr. Huber, law director.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Lamb,
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Heffinger.
Yes.
Hazeltine.
Yes.
Motion
Will we
passes.
recess into executive session to discuss the imminent litigation stuff that Mr. Huber wants to talk to us about? We'll be reconvening into finance, not taking any action on anything discussed in executive session, and adjourning from finance and going to council. We are in recess. Where are we going? The mayor's office.